What's that A-Team motto? I love it when a plan comes together. A while ago, I showed you my hand-drawn layout plan for the next growing season. It really did help me set up the new beds and prepare the soil for the crops I wanted to grow. And now I'm preparing to put on the finishing touches for the garden. The one thing that I really like about gardening is that it gives you a chance to experiment. And my experimental tomato seeds have sprouted, along with the squash in the toilet rolls. And something funny, one of the seeds evidently worked its way out of the roll, but liked the environment anyway and is growing nicely. The peppers I wanted to overwinter in ground that got frostbite on their tips are also beginning to sprout, and the kohlrabi around them seem to be enjoying the extra space that came with thinning. The sweet peas I put in to fix the soil over the fall have provided lots of tasty treats, and the kale has allowed me to enjoy so many great meals I can't begin to count. The jury's still out on the garlic as a protective companion plant for the kale, but they too are growing. Even the strawberries decided to get in on the action. All that remains is to put in the floating planter beds for flowers to attract pollinators, while adding more plants to the garden without taking up extra space. And, I hope, ward off pests. So, once again, off to my workshop. Making the planter boxes required me to cut a 23-inch long bottom and 2 sides, but only attaching 3 of them to allow access to attach them to the fence posts in the garden. When I first started woodworking, I watched a video where a guy said, "You never have enough clamps." The more I do, the more I understand what he meant. They do come in handy. And you know what comes next. Pilot holes. With the pilot holes done, I could move on to securing the partially completed planter. I put in lots of screws to make certain the planter will hold together. That done, I now needed to repeat the process 3 more times to create the 4 floating planters I needed. And then, to take one of the planters outside to mark the height and where to place the screws that will hold the planter in place. This part is very important because the shelves will appear to float, but the screws will be holding the weight of the planter. I could then use this first box as a pattern to mark the screw space on all the other planters. I decided to put in 5 screws for extra strength. I also didn't notice until later that I was marking the wrong side, but I caught it. I forgot to film it, but I also put in 4 holes in the bottom for drainage. That done, I was now ready to make what felt like 1,000 trips back and forth to collect everything I needed to attach the planters to the fence posts. I decided to attach the bottom shelf first to give myself working room when attaching the top shelves. Putting in the pilot holes definitely helped because it allowed me to attach the middle screw and then level the planter to put in the remaining screws. With the shelves attached, I could begin to put on the front face of each planter. And then back to the future of clamping, doing pilot holes, and then screwing on the face. One of the first faces went on easily, so of course the next was tighter. So tight, in fact, that I had to use a mallet to get it in place. But get it in place I did. All that remained to do was add sticks and leaves to the hanging planters, and then fill them with compost and topsoil. In between putting up the second set of shelves, I took a mental break to top off the other 2 beds below, where I've been building up the soil since fall. All in all, every planter was now filled with organic matter, compost, and topsoil. And here is the finished product. Each floating planter is 24 inches long, 8 inches wide, and 6 inches deep. They will be close to the beds, but up out of the way to allow for walking space. The flowers I'm putting in are nasturtiums to act as a trap crop against aphids and cabbage beetles, and alyssiums to add color and invite predatory insects. Both flowers will fill up the planters and hang down to give a flower garden effect to the garden space. Don't you just love when a plan comes together? See you next time.